Hello, this is Chief. Yeah, I've been gone a couple weeks. Mostly because laziness and lack of interest so far in this series. I hope it does pick up later on. Like I said, I'm hoping some soldiers find this site that remember me and get started on this one. Last week we talked about KP and the gas mask or the gas chamber. Need to wet my whistle. This week I'm going to talk about ranges. All the other ranges we went to, mostly the rifle ranges. And a caveat at the very beginning of this. The caveat is, at all the ranges we went to, regardless of their function, all the galvanized trash cans shone brilliantly. Came to find out why. Early on in the cycle, two members of my platoon, I don't remember what their infraction was, they had to carry Brasso and a polishing rag to every range, and they were not given the same privilege as the rest of us when it came time to eat lunch. They were encouraged to eat their lunch very quickly because their time was to be spent polishing the galvanized trash cans inside, outside, and the lid. So there's a caveat. So I'm going to concentrate on rifle ranges. We went to all kinds, stationary targets, pop-up targets. I don't remember if we did paper targets at all, but I had only shot in a .22 prior to my experience in the military, plus a BB gun and a BB pistol. And those last two items, my brother and I used to have numerous BB gun fights, and we always said don't shoot for the head, but what did you always expose the most is the head. Neither one of us lost an eye, and neither one of us is a raving lunatic that went on a killing spree later on, so yeah. So, got my M16. Of course, you learn to love it. That's your girlfriend, as they always say in the movies, you know, that's your new sweetheart, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I went through all that rigmarole with my weapon too, but every range we went to, some days I would be okay, mediocre. Some days I would shoot real poor. Some days I would shoot, like I said, mediocre. I didn't do anything outstanding. Masha, I'm busy talking. My dog is trying to get on my lap. So, even one day while we were at one range, can't remember which one it was, Drill Sergeant Ratliff, that was our main drill sergeant for our platoon, he literally came up to my side. I was laying, I was in the prone position at this range. He picks up my weapon, he's standing there just like, you know, you see in the movies, shoots off about 3 rounds, hands me back the weapon and says, well, Private, you can always get recycled, which was a possibility, but I come to find out that the military tries to do their best to make sure you do qualify. And I was one of those people. So like I said, we went to all these ranges, mediocre to poor. I mean, I was just like not hitting anything right and left. And the day before we went to the qualification range, which was towards the end of our cycle, gotta wet my whistle again. We went to a practice qualification range. And this range looked like hell. It looked like they did not do much upkeep on it. From what I remember, it was scruffy looking. It was like, do you really use this range? Because it doesn't look like someone's done any maintenance. I mean, because you could see literally holes in those lovely targets, and you're like, you're not going to knock that down. Your bullet's going to whiz right through the middle of that target, or that big hole in that target, and it's not going to go down, and they're going to say, well, you're not doing so good. So, yeah. So that practice range, I mean, a lot of us blew it, seriously. But I think the drill sergeants were looking to see who was good and who was bad. So it rained that night. And qualification range is the very next day, and we're going to get out there. Not at old dark 30, but of course we got woken up at old dark 30, and I think we actually got bussed out to that range for the first time. Or not bussed, but cattle card. I'll talk about those later. So we get out to the range, and of course, this range is pristine. I'm in the first firing order, probably because of my piss poor record of shooting thus far in the military at that time. So I'm in the first qualification range, and I'm almost in the center of the 15, probably 20 lanes. I don't know. I think they were all functioning. This wasn't the typical later where you have the computers. This is pre-computer. So these are going to be graded by a person sitting behind us. So this is like I said, before computers. So they're going to watch, the target goes down, they're going to check it. And I forgot to get my scorecard. I'll dig that out for next week and tell you how well I did. I can't remember at the top of my head how well I did. I was surprised. So like I said, this range was pristine. It kind of had a gentle, well, it had a flat area, then a gentle slope, and then there was what we called the berm, where the foxholes were built and where you would lay for the prone. And then you had a vista. You had trees running down both sides of your lane. I could not see targets to the left of me. I could not see targets to the right of me. So all the targets that I needed to look at were down my lane. And it was, like I said, it was greenery. It was like they just dug a lane down a forest and said, this is our firing range. So then it came time to do this is where your targets are at, and they popped up, and of course they were all wet with the moisture of the rain, so they shone. They had a shine to them, so I'm like, that's good. So they pop up, your 25, your 50, your 100, 150, 200, 250, and your 300. Yeah, the 300 way out there. So first position was Foxhole Supported, so they gave us time. We had two or three sandbags, so you put your weapon in and get a firm base for your M16. So while I'm busy doing this, the score people come up, and it's all females. They're from the female company. I'm like, okay. So she came by, or she said hello or something. I don't remember which. No words were exchanged between us all that much. We were told not to talk to them. They were not to read out what target was coming up either, and because their integrity was on the line, our integrity was on the line, so it was not like shouting out or asking what target to expect for the next bullet, because they would not give that, because they were being checked while we were being graded. So they would have been pulled off the line and probably disciplined, and I probably would have been disciplined too if I asked what target was coming up next, or any other soldier. So while I'm preparing my foxhole, I hear voices, even though I got my earplugs already in, because we had to have your earplugs in when you're on the line, regardless of shooting or not. So I turn around, she turns around, and there's a bunch of high school kids. I'm like, what? There's a bunch of high school kids, like two buses of high school kids came out. They were walking up and down the berm, and they seemed to congregated near me, at least about 10 to 15 of them. I'm like, wow, let's see, I'm already doing piss poor at every other range. Now I've got an audience that's going to watch me shoot. Yeah, more pressure, just what I don't need. But I was calm, cool, and collective. I really was. I was like, I'm going to have fun today no matter how well I shoot. Like I said, I'll pull my scorecard out, excuse me, and go over it next week. So like I said, the first 10 rounds are Foxhole Supported. Man, you got a firm base for that weapon. I might have done 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I know I was just like, okay, I'm halfway there, because you needed, what's the magic number, 23 I think it is, to shoot, just to have marksman, the lowest, because you got marksman, a sharpshooter, and expert, and there's varying targets to knock down for all those categories. So I'm like, wow, either 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. I'm like, wow, I'm almost halfway there. I'm feeling really good. And then the next round was Foxhole Unsupported, so that means you just prop up your elbows. Well, I had been punished. I'll talk about that later. I had been punished, so I was able to do a firm base with my M16, because the closer you can get your elbows together, the firmer the base is that you have than you do outside. And I'll talk about my punishment later on, because that's a story in itself. So I'd already been punished, so that helped me out. So I don't remember how well I did Foxhole Unsupported, but I'm like, oh man, this is a piece of cake now, because I knocked down maybe 6, 7 out of 10. So I'm like, yeah, 6 or 7 more, I'm home free. I don't have to worry about being recycled or scared about that fact anymore. I mean, I'm feeling really good. Like I said, the shininess of the target helped because the targets almost match the greenery, even though these are fir trees up and down the line. So then the next 10 shots is Foxhole, or not Foxhole, but Prone Supported. So grab the sandbags, build your position. They give you time, which is really nice. That's why we're out there all day. Like I said, I'm in the first firing order. So I get my sandbags positioned, and again, I'm like home free. Don't have any worries. I'm not going to get recycled. I qualified already. And then the next 10 magazine, or the next 10 bullets in the magazine. Oh my goodness! Or again, prone unsupported. Got my elbows locked at close. I got a firm base up and down that line. I qualified. Very first get-go. Well, I come to find out that most of the time, like I said, they put us scrubs. The ones we're not sure about, they put them in the first firing order, so after everybody fires and they still got ammunition, they'll let you retest. Even if you score, let's say you went on the second firing line or second time to fire and you shot 40, you'd only get credit for marksman, the lowest, because it took you 2 rounds or two sets to do that. So I was happy. I think even Drill Sergeant Ratliff came over and kind of congratulated me, and he's like, been probably questioning, like, why wasn't I firing like that the rest of the cycle. Man, my voice is just drying up today. So I was happy. I'm looking at the time just to make sure I don't talk too long. But that was a good range. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I was happy. Guys were being congratulating up and down the line. I mean, I don't know. I don't really remember if anybody had to reshoot later that day or not. I know we all passed that day. None of us had to go back out. None of us were set back to another company. I think at that time we had not received our phase backs because I think we gained 5 individuals that got phased back into us to graduate with us, and they graduated with us. And one of those was a young kid who liked to brag, "My dad's a major." And when it came time for graduation, which I'll talk about more in extent, but 4 of us in my platoon had to go around from room to room to tie the ties because only 4 of us knew how to do the 4-in-hand tie procedure. And I'm one of those individuals that I have to be behind you to tie your tie. I can't tie a tie backwards. Never learned that. Never had to do that before either, so that was another thing. Sometimes a guy was uncomfortable, I would tie it on me and put it over his head. But that's me firing a weapon. I love the M16, even though I consider it always a piece of shit. Sorry. I had a 203 underneath my M16 at one post. I love my 203. I'll talk more about Thumper later. That's what I named mine. I was an expert shot with that. I mean, I enjoyed firing ever since then. I mean, anytime that I got an opportunity to go out to a range, I took it. And I got disappointed one time when it came time to fire the 45. I'll talk about that when I get to my military post. So this is Chief signing off. I qualified first go. Like I said, I'll pull out my grade card, let you know how well I did my first time. Unlike my first PT test, which I still haven't talked about yet. I failed my first PT test in the military. But this is Chief signing off. See ya. Chief out.